Well, welcome everyone here this morning. I'm guessing that a number of you, probably recently, but certainly not too long ago, have been the recipients of an invitation, right? Maybe an invitation to a birthday party, maybe an invitation to a wedding, maybe a shower, whatever it happens to be. And in our tradition in the West, we very often will get an invitation card, right? And at the bottom of that card will be 4 little letters, RSVP, which Pierre knows full well what that means. And like boldly s'il vous plaît, meaning please reply, please let us know if you're coming. Some time ago, my father remarried late in life, and my stepmother, who was German, very German, actually born in Germany, came to Canada, and their family spoke German at home. So the entire family speaks with a little bit of a German accent, speak English quite well. But for those of you who have German friends, you will know that sometimes the F's and the V's get changed around, right? It's not water, it's water, etc., right? So one day one of these cards came in the mail, an invitation to the family, and they looked at the card at the bottom and they said, what's this RSVP thing at the bottom? And the father really looked over his shoulder and he said, that's simple. He said, remember to send the wedding present. So we've all received invitations of different sorts. But some of those invitations sometimes can be perceived as a kind of demand. It really depends on your understanding of the invitation. Sometimes it's easy to see invitations as an obligation, as opposed to a true, neutral invitation. Which at times can be a shame, I think, because it sort of obscures the genuine welcome and the extension from others that are hoping that you will accompany them at the event, right? So in today's gospel, Jesus extends to us an invitation in a most tender and appealing way. It's this invitation, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. An invitation that is rivaled in its tenderness, perhaps only by that beautiful scene where Mary Magdalene anoints Jesus and wipes the nard from him with her hair, in a beautiful scene of tenderness. And you can almost see Jesus as he is saying this to his disciples, come unto me and I will give you rest. With downturned eyes, with a loving smile on his face, and with every ounce of his being extending to them that invitation. These words have been immortalized in a number of ways for us. You'll find them in the famous aria in Handel's Messiah. But Thomas Cranmer also saw fit to include these immortal words in our BCP liturgy, for those of you that can remember the BCP, where we recite it every time as part of the communion. I always reflect back, whenever I hear these words, I reflect back to the time when I think I really first noticed them. And this is about 6 years ago. I took an airplane up to the Belcher Islands, a remote set of islands in the middle of Hudson Bay, and to request a friend of mine, another kind of invitation. And the invitation was to fly 800 pounds of food and go and pay a visit to his wife, who's a high school teacher there. This little village of 700 people in the middle of Hudson Bay, of Inuit people, have a church. The church is an aging geodesic dome that in fact was a former hot dog stand at Expo 67. It was a discard from Expo 67. So somebody saw fit to put it on a ship. When the ice was out in the summer, take it up there, and they plumped it on a simple foundation, and that was their church. Same folks, it's still there. There's no heat, there's light, there's no bathroom, and there's one way in and one way out. One little window, about 1.5 feet across, a triangular window, above their makeshift altar, simple altar, but written in words underneath it is, come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest. So seeing those words in that church and in that particular context kind of a special meaning to me. In the middle of a moonscape of gray rock where there's very little in the way of opportunity. It's a community rife with social problems. There's little to do. There's nowhere to go. And where on earth can you take your talents in that kind of an isolation? The church in Sanikiluaq also has a history. It's a long story, but in the 1920s, the church that they had broke apart in a suicide murder that rent the community in half. And for reasons I don't understand, but I rejoice at, they found a way to come back to the church. They asked the particular denomination who was there in the 1920s to leave, and they asked the Anglican Church to establish a church presence in this village in order to bring them some sense of peace, or some sense of turning back to God, to find answers and to find solace in the middle of a very difficult time. So after hearing their story, I wondered how on earth this community of a couple hundred people would have found a way to come back into a relationship with Jesus Christ. And the answer came in a few simple realizations that I think transformed not only their decision to return to the church, but also challenged my own thinking about what it meant to have a sense of ministry, about what it meant to be a real servant in the church. What the people of Sanikiluaq responded to was what each of us had had extended to us through Jesus Christ as God's only Son. They responded to an invitation. An invitation that has two parts. The first is to know the loving heart of God despite not comprehending His divine will. And second, an invitation to come into a relationship with Him so that the burdens of this mortal life might be transformed into a sense of peace, of well-being, and one another. And none of those things are easy to achieve. We all know. Jesus begins His invitation to know the heart of God by using a straightforward explanation. Nobody knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son would reveal Him. Straightforward, no compromise. If you want to know the heart of the Father, you must know me. And to whom will this privilege of glimpsing the heart of God be extended? He again prays, I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth. You've hidden these things from the wise and the clever, but you've revealed them to little children. Revealed them to little children. The answer here again is straightforward and hard-hitting. The only people who will see what is revealed to them are those who would explore the invitation with a humble heart, just like an infant. We have Baby Jack with us here today. Baby Jack lacks any prejudices of this life. Infants have no prejudices, and they will share whatever love they have with anyone around them with no expectation of return. This is the heart that will know the heart of God. Now this is Jesus' heart. But let's not mistake this invitation as an invitation to abandon our intellect or deny the importance of human discernment in service to the church. It's simply to acknowledge the limits of human comprehension in the face of God, to acknowledge and submit to our own inadequacies, and to offer our finite and failure-ridden existence in the face of God's own infinite wisdom and good. Simply put, if we approach God staring down the long line of our nose into our past days from a position of judgmentalism, we will never find Him. If, on the other hand, we step down from our lofty and our critical platforms and humble ourselves before God and confess our inability to discover Him and read the Gospels with an open, unprejudiced mind like that of a little child, then God will reveal Himself to anyone who will do that. I wonder if there's anybody in the church here this morning who has a sense that they've been looking for but haven't quite found God yet. Could it be that many of us have been seeking Him in the wrong spirit? Could it be that God hides Himself from those who would approach with any kind of a vain intellectual perception? In other words, hidden from the crowd. God reveals Himself to those who would be humble in seeking Him, and all that's required of us is that we not close our minds, but that we open them. It's not a call to stifle our intellects or suppress our God-given abilities. It's that we humble them. But why bother? Why bother to seek God through a relationship with Jesus Christ? What if I do that? What if I don't? The answer here is found in, again, this loving invitation extended in the gospel. If you come unto me, all you who are labored and are heavy laden, I will give you rest. That's the end point. Notice to whom this invitation is being addressed. Jesus is speaking to us as human beings. And quite frankly, he is not being complimentary. He likens us to oxen laden with loads that threaten to crush us. And he understands that humankind is burdened with all kinds of issues. And who among us would disagree with his assessment? We carry the burden of anxieties and fears. We carry the burden of temptations and responsibilities. And for all too many, they carry the crushing burden of loneliness. There is a sense that life has no meaning or purpose. Above all, there is the burden of our failures and inequities that are properly called sins. Do our consciences ever feel a sense of guilt? Who among us has never been ashamed of something that we've done? We all have, in some way, shape, or form. Have we never felt at times that these burdens are becoming intolerable and we want to shed them? Of course not. If these things were not part of our experience as humans, then I wonder if we would ever accept the invitation of Christ. It is the burden he invites to come to him. And the very first step toward Jesus Christ is a frank and humble admission that we need him. Nothing keeps people away from Jesus Christ more than our arrogance and our unwillingness to acknowledge that we need him now more than ever. Jesus invites us to come to him with a burden. Well, what do we have to do to do that? The answer is nothing, except come to him. Salvation is a gift that's freely offered, and as it is utterly undeserved. And let's not deflect matters by making it complicated, by becoming engrossed in the extremes of religion. Some come to church out of a sense of social responsibility to be baptized. Some come to the bishop to be confirmed. Some come to the pastor to seek his or her counsel. They come to every